Hello, you guys. This is Josh Vision, and I'm here to give my season 6, episode 1 and 2 review of Vikings. So, in this episode, you guys, we start off essentially with Bjorn, Ube, Gunhild, I believe, is actually the name of Bjorn's wife, Torvi, and Lagtha. They're basically in the Great Hall, and we're welcome to the new King of Kattegat era, Bjorn Ironside's turn, to be in control of the throne. So basically, we see him give this speech, and he talks about how he's not going to be like Ivar, and he's talking about how Ivar was all about conquest, and he was all about, basically blocking off Kattegat from the rest of the world, and he feels that was a wrong idea, and also that's kind of dumb, being a king, and that since they're Vikings, and the whole thing about Kattegat is that he wants to improve trade, he wants to trade basically, and he wants the people to have to say, not to be not to be told what to do like Ivar is doing when Ivar is basically like a dictator or whatever. So he says he's basically their humble servant as king, and if they have anything they want to say or speak to him about, they could say to him right now, like in the meeting. Also, what happened in this meeting that was very important, we have this whole thing with Ivar's right hand men, especially the guy, I forgot his name, but the one that always has a scowl on his face. They're captured, and Bjorn asks what their crime is. And Visik, who's quite drunk at this point, during the first few minutes of this episode, he talks about how their crime was not only listening to Ivar, but basically going beyond even Ivar's instruction and burning people alive, and not just doing it because Ivar told him to, but also getting a sick thrill out of it. And he mentions how one of the people that they burned was Thora. And if we remember correctly, Thora was the love of Visik's life during the latter stages of season 5B. And she was brutally murdered and burned alive by Ivar and company after Ivar kind of put the mark, on her face of blood. In a way, it's kind of like Mark of Cain, but whatever. So, basically, Bjorn, basically, okay, y'all are going to get, dealt with. Y'all going to be punished in some way. So, everyone was expecting him to basically have them, killed off, executed. But Bjorn's like, nah, we're just going to brand them and basically make them basically walking nobodies, essentially. I forgot what the word was he called them, but it's like I said before, they're basically they're nobodies. They can't own any land. They have to sort of just wander the woods, basically until they die, essentially. And they're kicked out of Kattegat. So Visik isn't pleased by this, and neither is the majority of the citizens of Kattegat. And Vix is like, if this was Ivar would have executed them. And then Bjorn's like, well, I'm not Ivar. And then we have Lagtha kind of smiling, smirking, as she kind of pats Bjorn on the back and walks away. So, let's get to Ivar. Now, we see Ivar is traveling this Silk Road, and it was freaking awesome, this whole scene. Ivar genuinely looks happy. That's the happiest I've ever seen Ivar in this series. And this is even including when Ivar tortures and kills people, which says a lot. So, we see him meeting different kinds of people, and ethnicities. We see him seeing different kinds of birds and animals and snakes and all that. And he's very happy and intrigued. In a way, he kind of, at least from this aspect, he looks very much and acts very much like Ragnar when he's seeing something of interest and all this stuff. Then we see this dude who seems to be a Viking, right? With his eye kind of really messed up on the left side. It was kind of similar to Ragnar's in a way, in terms of the symbolism of the torch of the eye, or something like that, along them lines. After that particular scene, we see that Ivar and his new second command guy, they're amongst this group of mercenaries, basically to protect Ivar, so on and so forth. And this guy is now part of the group. And Ivar's been wondering, why is this idiot been staring at me for the past few days? Actually, weeks, actually. So Ivar tells the guy to tell him to stop staring at him. So, I believe the next day, actually, they're traveling, and they're actually ambushed by these weird-looking dudes on horses. And most of Ivar's mercenary friends are basically taken out, with the exception of a few, including the dude with the messed up eye. So Ivar manages to take out, I believe, one of the soldiers, but eventually he's kind of thrown to the ground. So they ask who Ivar is and where he's from. Ivar can't understand them. And the guy with the messed up eye, he tells him that he's basically King Ivar from Kattegat, and he's a Viking like they are. And I'm like, Viking, like they are. I'm like, oh, these are the Roots Vikings. So they're like, how is he a king? You know what I mean? And they said, get up, hurry up. We got to take you to our prince, whatever. But Ivar, obviously, he can't get up, as quickly as they want. So they're like, what's wrong with you? And the guy tells him he's a cripple. So one of the soldiers kind of laughs and says, I have seen everything. So I don't think Ivar understood what they said, but he read body language, and he pretty much picked up, I believe, that they were making fun of the fact that he was a cripple. So he kind of spits in disgust, after that. So we meet Prince Oleg, I believe, and we meet him post acts like mutilation, because he mutilated the crap out of this corpse, whatever. So Ivar's dragged, and he's basically put literally on the blood, like the leftover blood of this corpse. So Prince Oleg is very intrigued by Ivar when he first meets him. He's like, who are you and what do you want? So his guy tells him basically that he's a king. He's like, king? Then why are you coming to my kingdom without even notifying me? So Ivar explains that his name is Ivar the Boneless, and that he basically came to his kingdom out of a whim, that his men basically just captured him, and he had no intention of even going by the kingdom at all. He was just trying to escape the retribution of his brothers. So this intrigues Prince Oleg, and he's like, you know what? You're an interesting person. Like I mentioned, a few minutes ago about Ivar and his, weird, strange relationship. But he needs more information. He needs to know the absolute truth. So we see him torture Ivar's second right-hand command, basically, the new guy. And he tells him the truth. He's like, listen, we came here because we were captured. He's trying to hide away from his brothers, Björn, Ubba, and Visik, the sons of the famous Ragnar Lothbrok. So Oleg believed that, but still he felt that there was another reason why he came. He felt there was another reason, and he was pissed off that the guy didn't tell him the reason, even though the guy did tell him the truth of Soldier Ivar. So his reward for not telling the truth to Oleg was basically getting catapulted. And it was a crazy, crazy scene. Even Ivar was horrified by this dude, Prince Oleg. He was like, yo, what did he do that was exactly wrong? Oleg is, oh, Jesus Christ. That was even gruesome for me to watch. I was like, Jesus Christ, this dude literally had this dude like tied from one tree to the other, and then just the whole cowboy and his arms getting ripped off and him getting flinged from this. It was like, oh, Jesus Christ. But yeah, so the next scene we have, I believe, Lagertha, Björn, Gunhild, and Torvi and Ubba talking about, the future, what they're about to do for Kattegat from here on out. And Lagertha says that she wants to retire from fighting, that she's done with fighting. She no longer wants to be famous. She wants to be a farmer, because that's when she was the happiest, when she was with Ragnar. Now, this is not surprising to me, because I believe that once Lagertha, when she was saved by that witch doctor lady, basically post the Battle of Martin, which happened season 5, episode 16, that's when Bishop Hegman died, that she was tired of the fighting. So I'm not surprised by that at all. She retired like literally a season, ago. But yeah, so Ubba is like, so you're going to try to be famous. Stop trying to be famous and hide away, despite being the most famous shield maiden of all time in our culture. She's like, yes, Ubba, that's what I want to do. So Björn, even though he doesn't like the idea, he was hoping for his mother to basically be one of his right-hand men, to protect him, and also who he could rely on. He understood. He also knows that when his mother makes up her mind, she makes up her mind. She's really going to change it. So he supports it. So after this, we see something very interesting in regards to Björn and this new servant girl. And Björn is definitely his father's son, because he can't keep his pecker in his pants. Now, the same thing as we noticed with Björn happened last season when it came to Alfred's wife and so on and so forth. Björn is basically a man whore. So I believe that Gunhild realized that there was something between Björn and the servant woman. But what I'm trying to figure out is, why is Goonhill so calm about this? Because she's a warrior. And even though it's kind of accepted in the culture, it just seemed like someone like Goonhill, the woman that she is, she wouldn't allow that. Like, I'm just kind of expecting at some point in the season, she's probably going to give this woman the beating of a lifetime, if not just straight up kill her. And if she doesn't, I'll be kind of surprised. But anyways, we have this scene with Bjorn and Gunhild when they're basically in the hall, they're basically in their chairs, and they get word about the condition of King Harold. So apparently King Harold was captured after the battle for Kattegat, and he was captured by King Olaf, who basically said that if he didn't retrieve King Harold, he most likely would have died on the battlefield. So he basically only saves King Harold's life, but he's such a good friend that he decides to take his kingdom while he's at it. Since King Harold isn't there, and he doesn't have really the manpower since he's with Olaf to really defend it. So King Harold's basically messengers, like I mentioned before, tell Bjorn and Gunhild this. And Gunhild, once she hears these hears this news that basically King Harold, survived, she's shocked, because I always felt that Gunhild really did love, to me personally, I think she loves both Bjorn and King Harold. And I think she doesn't really I don't think she really likes one more than the other, or loves one more than the other. I think it was just more practical because Bjorn was in the better position, therefore she married Bjorn. Now, if Harold was in a better position, I'm sure she would have married Harold. Anywho, Bjorn doesn't really want to get involved. He's kind of like, that sucks, but I'm the king of Kattegat. That was kind of the whole point of me even fighting Ivar to begin with. So it sucks for him. But they remind Bjorn of the fact that Harold Harold decided to join Bjorn's cause and gave him his men, to fight Ivar, and that if he didn't give him his men, Ivar most likely would have defeated him or killed him. And also the fact that he took a knife or a spear, I believe, for Bjorn, who was about to die. So it was a lot of guilt tripping, and Bjorn was kind of teed off about that. You see him try to basically out-alpha the dudes by getting in their face and really making them feel uncomfortable. But he knew they were right. And later in the episode, when he's speaking with Gunhild, he talks about the fact that he's really trying to figure out what's the best choice to make. Because even though, from a practical standpoint, he doesn't really need to help Harold, but from a moral standpoint, he wants to be sort of like his father, but better. Because he feels like his father would have helped out Harold. So that's why he wants to do it. But also he talks about with Gunhild the fact that he's afraid of not being a good king. In a way, he's afraid of not being like his father and like Ivar. Even though he thinks Ivar was a horrible ruler, he doesn't want to be a bad ruler like Ivar, but he wants to be a great ruler like his father, but he wants to be better, obviously. And he's afraid of how he will be judged if he doesn't make a good choice when it comes to the whole King Harold, capture, essentially. And Gunhild says, you need to stop worrying about being like your father or being worse to your father. You have to just be yourself, and then if you be yourself, you'll most likely be better than him. But Bjorn is still conflicted about it. And he talks about how he looks into the Great Hall. He's like, when I look into the Great Hall, I can see my father, my mother. I'm surprised he didn't mention Athelstan or his sister, but whatever. But he basically talks about how he can see them back when they were ruling, when Ragnar was ruling, and even a young version of himself. But now time has gone by so quick. Now he has his own children. He's an older man, and now he's no longer the prince, or a son of Ragnar. He's actually a king. So this gets us back to Ivar. So we have Ivar and Prince Ulig. Their friendship is a weird yet interesting one to watch. We see them basically doing some weird thing in which they're tied to some big balloon essentially, and they're up in the air. And we see Ola kind of make fun of Ivar, saying, "Hey, I thought you were like this. I thought you were the son of Odin. I thought he was a god. So if you were to fall from here, you won't die." And at first Ivar is terrified, but eventually he really starts to enjoy it. And you see him and Olag really start to bond, like two psychopaths, that were made for each other, and brotherlyhood madness. We see Oleg actually show Ivar his mausoleum he made for his wife. And we see that the tears that Oleg was crying for his wife were actually genuine, because he said that he really did love his wife. He thought about her all the time, even on the battlefield, and that she betrayed him by sleeping with one of his, I believe, I don't know if he said like one of his other nobles or soldiers or peasants or whatever, and for that, he had to kill her. And Ivar thinks back to Freydis in a way, because think about it. Freydis kind of did the same thing. But obviously, it was kind of different in a sense, because Freydis did this because she knew Ivar was too self-conscious to really try to go, for the intercourse. While I think the woman that Oleg was with probably didn't really like him. And she just did it because, she was in love with another guy. Either way, she died. So we have Oleg really crying. He talks about how he feels that him and Ivar's friendship is going to be very important and worthwhile. So we also meet Igor, I believe, who's the true king or successor of the king of the Rus Viking people. So we see that he's under the protection of one of Prince Oleg's brothers. He has two brothers. One of them being Oskald. So we meet Oskald, and he seems to be a very nice guy. And we see him compliment Ivar. And he talks about, oh, nice to meet you, Ivar the Boneless. We hear that you're actually, the king. You're one of the Viking kings, and your name is famous, from the Silk Road. Basically kind of the same thing that Prince Oleg said earlier about his name being famous throughout the Silk Road. He's known as he's known as the Scourge of England, that he was responsible for killing two English kings, so on and so forth. And I was like, what is really fame? Is it an illusion? So we see Ivar's wit at play, essentially, and how good he is at adapting to different, circumstances and situations. So we see them. There's more talking going on about, I believe, Prince Oleg wanting his brother to lend him part of his army for his eventual conquest of Scandinavia, aka Kattegat, because it was spoken earlier between him and Ivar that he agreed that he would join. Well, it was agreed that they would attack Kattegat, essentially, because he feels though it's his time to do it, considering that the Rus Vikings have basically taken over a lot of territory, especially Constantinople, which Prince Oleg himself took over by putting a shield over it, killing a lot of people, blah, 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 blah. So, here's where things get interesting. So, Askell seemed like to be a good dude, like I mentioned, right? And it seemed like he's willing to give part of his army to his brother, to help with the conquest of Kattegat. So as soon as he drinks the wine, it's like Prince Oleg decides that he wants to dance and do Oompa or some crap, right? So while this is going on, Ivar and the boy, Igor, the true heir, or to the throne, the true king to the throne, but he's too young, so he can't really, be king yet. So he has to basically have someone kind of run things for him till he's of age. So anyways, Askell is poisoned, essentially, and just seeing the process was just excruciating to watch. You're seeing literally the stages of it was just really creepy and kind of hilarious in a sad way. Just how Prince Oleg just did not give a freak. This dude was dancing, laughing, and he was really getting it. He was really burning sweat. And Oskal tried to kill him his last act, but he just fell on the ground before it could reach him. And then after that, you see Igor, the kid, the true heir. This dude's hiding behind the table. Underneath the table. And Oleg's like, come here. And I believe he takes the boy into one of the rooms, whatever, and has him stay there. Whatever. So Ivar sees this. He's impressed, but also he's a little bit disturbed by it, which says a lot. Because this is one of the rare occasions that Ivar is ever disturbed by anyone. So Ivar asks him, why did he kill his brother? Which is hilarious considering that Ivar killed Sigurd, but it was different. As I mentioned before in other videos, that was more in the heat of the moment. It was still wrong, but it was in the heat of the moment. It wasn't premeditated like Prince Oleg did it his brother. But Oleg said basically that Askell betrayed him. He tried to take his position because Prince Oleg was supposed to be the original regent for the young king until he comes of age, but Askell tried to take his place essentially, so he had to kill him due to the insult, so on and so forth. So Ivar was like, okay. He wasn't, he still thought it was ridiculous, but Ivar's an asshole. He enjoys a little murder now and then. So we see him, the prince, kind of depart, and we see Ivar really bond with the king in waiting. The boy Igor. They're doing like jokes. They're teaching each other's language. Ivar the Old Norse, and the kids teaching him the Ruse Viking language. Ivar does tricks, with like magic tricks essentially, which I didn't even know Ivar even knew any of that stuff. He probably learned that crap from Floki, But basically, another threat happens, and we see the other brother, Prince Oleg, and the deceased Askell make his way into the place they were all at. Essentially, he's rightfully pissed at Oleg for killing their brother, and he's like, "Listen, y'all got 2 hours to basically do something about this, or I'm gonna kill you, and I'm gonna kill the cripple, and take back Igor." So, I believe there was a deal made between Prince Oleg and his brother that if he tells him something that no one else could possibly know, that him and Ivar would be spared, and they would leave with Igor, and they all remain intact and alive and all that. So we find out after a few hours that Prince Oleg basically he knew that he married someone. His brother married someone, and ironically, he had his brother's wife with them. And everybody was shocked. Even Ivar was shocked. Ivar was like, "Oh my God, this dude's the real deal. This dude literally plans everything. Like, he's so much farther ahead than everybody." Which Ivar's impressed, because think about it. That's Ivar in a nutshell. He's always several steps ahead of everybody. That's what we get from this guy, Prince Oleg. He's like Ivar. And he's possibly even better than Ivar at this point. And if I'm being honest, Ivar's a student right now, and Prince Oleg's the master. Ivar has to learn from him to get to that next level. So, Ivar and Prince Oleg are basically, they basically escape. And I believe Ivar, the last thing he says to Oleg's remaining brother is, "Hey, you gonna say goodbye to the cripple?" That was the last thing that was said. So, to end this review, Lagtha gets her farm, or her little place, whatever, by a little fjord or something that reminds her of the place that her and Ragnar and Bjorn, Athelstan, and crap. What's the girl's name? Crap, I can't believe I forgot Ragnar and Lagtha's daughter's name. Crap, I'm sorry, you guys. But yeah. The place that reminded her of the, back during the farming era. So, I believe that's how that's all that happened, you guys, really, in this episode. If I missed anything, please write down below in the comments. Thank you guys for watching this long review. A lot of things happened in this double, episode premiere for Vikings. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. This is Josh Vision. Adios.